When I was a teenager, I turned to my best friend and I'm like, hey, I think I'm really depressed. And she's like, you're not depressed, you're just sad. My ex-boyfriend, he thought I was looking for attention and make little like Snickers with his friends, like, oh my God, this girl's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, psycho. You act on that, you know, because that's what you believe you are.
In therapy, the therapist asks you a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. What's your sense of like what these questions are for? Why do we ask so many questions? Or why do you think that we ask so many questions?
In the beginning, obviously, I'm just like nosy. I'm like, okay, like what else? Like, geez, my social security too. But really, it's come to find out, like, again, holding the mirror up, it's really reflection on like who you are as a person. How'd you become this person? Why are you acting this way? So every question, there is really intention behind it. It's not just some aimless question, like trying to be nosy, you know, like they're not judging you. So I feel like every single question for my therapist, you know, she was just looking out for me and wanted to help me become more aware of why I was behaving a certain way or acting or thinking a certain way.
Yeah, the questions, intention. I like that you used that because, you know, sometimes therapists who are just people, sometimes those curious questions, or how you would say nosy, they do pop up here and there.
Yeah.
But it is like a therapist's kind of duty to refrain from doing that. Like you might be talking about something from your life and then you mention like a restaurant that I've been to, and my initial reaction of wanting to talk about and make this connection like, oh, I've been there and I got this item from the menu. Like those things, we often refrain from that because in therapy, it is about you. Of course, it's going to somewhat be about me because I'm a human and we're connecting as two people, and my experiences, beliefs, and values are going to be present in this room. But it's very important for therapists not to impose those things, right? Yeah. Or like make you have particular goals or try to get you to think the way that I do.
Very unbiased. Very non-judgmental. It was very neutral. Like you said, she didn't try to impose her opinions or thoughts to a certain extent with the thoughts, but opinions, she never really did that.
Right. The opinion stuff, we're taught and trained to like leave that stuff outside the door, go to your own therapy so you're really sure of what your stances on a bunch of stuff are so that you don't have to come into a session and argue with clients about it.
Yeah.
Especially in like, you know, heated climates like we have in current modern society.
I can't even imagine going to a therapy session and she's telling me, no, you're wrong. I'm just like, we're having like this debate. You know what I mean? It's not like that at all.
I'm very glad you had that, because a personal experience, which I think a lot of people can relate to, is we turn to sometimes a best friend, an older family member, maybe our mom. We turn to these people with the expectation that they will be there for us without judgment, that they'll respond to us in a way that's loving and caring and nurturing. And a lot of times those responses are loving, caring, and nurturing, but they're also filled with the judgment, the criticisms of, you could have done it this way. It probably would have been better if you thought about it this way. So family, very well-meaning, but also emotionally charged, also like entangled into your life. And they have their own like motivations, things that they're trying to accomplish to propel this relationship in whatever direction.
When you're in such a vulnerable state and you don't know what's going on, and even though maybe a family member has the great intentions and they're basically putting their thoughts and opinions onto you, you're in a really vulnerable state and you might take their advice and it's just totally wrong and totally not the right direction to go. So even though family members are supportive, therapy is definitely highly recommended from my end.
Makes me wonder, like, what big differences, you've shared some already, but some other differences that you can think of between going to like a really close friend for support versus talking to a therapist.
So even just when I was a teenager, I turned to my best friend, and it's not her fault because she's not licensed. She's just a kid too. And I'm like, hey, I think I'm really depressed. And she's like, you're not depressed. You're just sad. You're just like, okay. And then my ex-boyfriend, from around that time, I would try to express my thoughts and my concerns. And he thought I was looking for attention and make little like snickers with his friends. Like, oh my God, this girl's crazy. You know what I mean? Like psycho. And at this point, you're just like, you don't even understand it yourself. You're like, oh, I am psycho. I'm real crazy. Like, I'm going to show you crazy. And then like you act on that, you know, because that's what you believe you are. And my mom, that's a different story. You know, I tried telling her, I'm like, I'm so angry. I feel this way. I'm like, I don't understand why. Like, I think I need help. And I didn't know what was wrong with me or why I'm this way. I just knew it wasn't normal. And she doesn't even have the depth to understand such a concept. And so maybe she cared for me, but she wasn't the ideal person to try to go for help. And so those were my 3 closest people in my life. Again, it's not my ex-boyfriend's fault or my best friend's fault. They don't know any better.
Yeah.
But as a parental figure, I definitely needed more guidance and more direction. And a lot of people don't have that. And I think that's another thing that steered me away from wanting to receive any more help. Just because of those kind of experiences. I'm like, wow, no one understands and no one's gonna want to help me.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when I open up is I'm met with like rejection or someone withdrawing or someone shutting down or someone telling me I'm wrong, invalidating my experience, saying that I'm not really feeling the thing that I think I'm feeling.
You feel like you shouldn't be feeling this way. Like you don't have a right to, or like you're just looking for attention, or people have it worse. You know, like why do you feel that way? You have no right to feel that way. So that really does affect you and how you portray people.
There are people out there that have it much worse than you. I think that is like someone's attempt to help you feel better because they're like trying to minimize the issue that you're bringing to them. Or even your friend, like, you're not depressed, you're just sad. I can see that being a 16-year-old solid attempt at making the situation less scary, but not just for you, but less scary for her.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with your ex-boyfriend, like making a joke of this thing that you're bringing up that's actually really uncomfortable for you. A lot of people respond that way because they don't know how else to handle it. They can't hold space for it because they're not really sure what to do. And they start feeling heightened. They start feeling emotional themselves. And then their own defense mechanisms start coming out. And some people use humor, which can be very harmful to like the people around 100%. Them. Yeah. And then, with mom, it's a lot of moms. They really mean well, but they are also people. And a lot of moms plenty of moms have been to therapy, but I think a lot of them haven't. And this thing that you mentioned of like, maybe she doesn't have the depth, it's probably she doesn't have the training. She doesn't have the understanding to help you feel safe in the feelings that you're having. And also, our parents' first instinct is like, oh my God, my child is hurt. I have to make them feel better. Versus my child is hurt. We're going to hold space for that and let them know it's okay to be hurt. Right? And that's like a big difference between parents and a therapist. A therapist is not going to try to immediately put a Band-Aid on it, but it's like, let's like really get in there.
Let's take the Band-Aid off. Let's see how bad is this wound? Like what happened to it? Like how'd you even get the wound? You know what I mean?
Oh, the wound, bring it back. I think I forgot to close that loop. We have wounds inside and we do all these things trying to heal them. Ultimately, if you don't heal that stuff, it will end up like bleeding out on other people.
Other people, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, the gory
all over
scene.
The place.
Yeah, the gory scene of like our emotional blood and baggage just like following us around everywhere. And it's contagious. It's like any feeling is contagious when you're with other people, and when you're not well, other people feel that, right?
Yeah, so like I imagine a cloud over me. It's just raining. Have my boyfriend here. He's getting rained on. It's poured. And I feel like it was almost my fault. Like I brought this into your life. Like you didn't deserve this. I really felt like I was bringing people down with me and they didn't need that. And that was another thing that led to why I did what I did. Everyone would be better off without me. So if you don't address the help, blood's everywhere,
I think we're touching on so many stuff that's very relatable to a lot of people. And I'm hearing you sing praises of how therapy's been helpful. Like, what would you say to someone that's like maybe in a similar headspace to where you were before, of thinking like, it's just not going to help? Anytime I've tried to open up to somebody, it led to something worse for me. Any pieces of advice to give to someone that's still very skeptical, resistant, fearful of trying this thing?
Number one, I would say, do not tell them how you think they should feel. So if you try to tell someone, like, they're gonna automatically tune you out. Like, you're automatically disqualified. Like, in that, like, who are you to tell me? Because, like, so just listen to them. Like, listen to what they have to say. And I wouldn't, again, put your opinions or your personal thoughts on it. For me personally, because I have been through it, I would just be there with them. And this is so powerful to me. Rather than, oh, you should do this, I would say, we should go to therapy. Like, let me help you find somebody, because I didn't have that support. I didn't have someone who's going to hold my hand and help me find the help. So for me, I would just hold their hand and try to find somewhere to get them help that they feel comfortable.
And you're like feeling like emotional because that's what you're doing here, right? You're like figuratively holding the hands now of so many people by sharing your experience and being so open about all this stuff that you've been through, and like, you know, rehashing a lot of your own thought process from the past that weren't very healthy. Sometimes people just need permission. I don't know if that's like from themselves or from other people to do something good and do something nice for themselves, nice for me. And while your journey to therapy wasn't quite like, I'm going to do this for me today. You know, at some point you were choosing to keep going back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And would you ever do it again? Would you ever go back to therapy?
I already know I'm going to go back to therapy, not because I'm depressed, but because I just need that extra helping hand. You know what I mean? I definitely think I'll need therapy for the rest of my life. Not because there's something wrong with me or like I'm suicidal again or something like that, just because it really is helpful.
What's helpful about it?
It really helps you understand why you feel a certain way about a certain situation. And I know as I get older, maybe marriage or kids, I'll have those conflicts of like, I'm letting my child down. I can't provide for them. And, you know, that will probably stem from how I feel certain times today, or how I can't provide for myself. And I know that probably will not be the case as I get older, but I'm sure therapy will help me understand that.
So it's helpful for navigating life's everyday challenges, right? Like, we're all posed with 1,000 decisions to make per day. And most of the time we're making those decisions largely on our own. Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting thing about therapy. It's not that your therapist is making further decisions for you, but helping you identify what decisions like lie in there already. Mm-hmm. Like, you already know the answers and the truth to what life is. We all know that for ourselves somewhere deep inside. And I think therapy really helps us like unlock this stuff that we've pushed down. You know, things like not having confidence or not believing in ourselves to make the right choices, or not feeling worthy, not feeling adequate. It really makes it hard to listen to ourselves and to hear those deep down truths that already exist.
Yeah, like, you don't believe the truth at all. Like, you could look in the mirror and be like, you're so ugly. Like, obviously, like, you're not ugly. You know what I mean? But all truths are out the window, and like, you don't even value your opinions.
If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.